Hi, I'm Dr. Russ, and this is Unit 3, How Do I Identify a Problem? In the previous video, you picked a topic within your academic area to research. Well, now it's time to narrow that topic to a specific problem that you can investigate. Let's find out how to do that. So, you've already done step 1, choose an interesting topic. Now you're going to identify the broad problem area for your topic. So what is a research problem? Normally we think of a problem as something that prevents us from achieving a goal. That's kind of what the word problem means in everyday language. In research, it has a slightly different meaning. A research problem is a specific issue or a gap in existing knowledge that you aim to address in your research. So, an issue may be something like, we don't know how to do this, or we need some choices that we can take when we're doing things, or it could be this is causing us trouble. But it can also be just a gap in our knowledge. We really don't understand how to do this. We don't understand what that means. We need to know more about something. So you're just trying to study an issue or fill in a gap in our knowledge somewhere. So where can you find problems to investigate? After thinking about your topic, you may already have some good problems to investigate in mind. And if you do, that's great. But if you're a person who goes, well, I've got a topic now, but I'm still not sure exactly what I want to study, um, then this is for you. Basically, you need to do some reading. And it's not reading that I can assign. It's reading that you're going to have to go find. You can look for books and encyclopedias in the LICC library. And the URL right below that is for our library's online catalog. So before you actually go to the library, you could sit at home and find out what books are in our library. You can look for journal articles in academic databases. Those are perhaps one of the best things for you to look at. And you can use the Google Scholar to look for those. And then, although we can't cite the Wikipedia in our thesis, we can still use the Wikipedia to get ideas. So feel free to go there. Similarly, just general web pages, PDF files, diagrams, things like that we can find using Google. Those are okay just when we're trying to get ideas. We may not be able to actually use that material in our papers, but we can use it to get ideas. Also, you have a thesis advisor. Hopefully by now you know who they are and have met with them. You could ask them for some suggestions on what books they might want you to read, or maybe some subject headings to look for journal articles and things like that. Now, again, we assume you've written an academic paper before, one that has references and things, and that you already know how to search databases or Google Scholar and things. So we're not going to cover that in this presentation. Okay, there's basically two kinds of research problems, and you don't have to memorize this or anything. We're just sharing this with you because it may help you to appreciate what's going on in your subject area better. So, one are practical problems, and practical problems are aimed at contributing to change. So, we're trying to make some sort of change in our professional practice, and we can't do it. Either something is giving us trouble or embarrassing us, or we don't have enough knowledge to do it, or we don't know what our choices are, that kind of thing. Theoretical problems are ones aimed at expanding knowledge. Like we may know that something may be true for one group of people, but we don't know what's true for another group of people. Or we know how to predict some things, but we've never tried to predict other things. In the end, though, research is all about getting information, either about how to do something or how to understand something. So, how can you identify a practical problem if you think that's what you might have? You can find practical problems in the library, journal articles, etc., by reading reports, um, following up on previous research. So maybe you found an article that describes some issue, and in the discussion part of that article, it said, if we had more time or more resources, we would have studied so and so. That's what we mean by following up. You could continue uh, studying what those people have studied, or talking to people who work in the field or organization. So if you're an education major, talk to some teachers. If you're a business major, talk to some small business owners. If you're a theology major, talk to some pastors. If you're a nursing major, visit one of the hospitals or clinics and talk to people who work there. If you're an agriculture major, talk to some farmers. So when you're looking at these reports or previous research, or you're talking to people, think about what those things are saying. Look for where they're talking about they're having problems with doing things well or on time, that is performance or efficiency. Look for where they're talking about a process that could be improved. Look for things that people who work in that area are concerned about or worried about. Or look for specific groups of people that are having more difficulties than other groups of people. For example, I have a deaf friend in Ganta, and deaf people have a little more trouble in school sometimes than hearing people, particularly if they are in a school at the same time as hearing people. Sometimes the hearing people don't respect them. So here's some examples of practical research problems that I found out there. Voter turnout in New England has been decreasing in contrast to the rest of the country. So there's a question of, why is this happening? Why is New England different from the rest of the United States? Another one is the Human Resources Department of a local chain of restaurants has a high staff turnover rate. What's going on? Why is everybody quitting at these restaurants? Or another one is a nonprofit organization faces a funding gap that means some of its programs will have to be cut. You can go a couple different ways there. You can say, well, what other kind of funding is available, or how will we decide which programs to cut? Okay, now let's look at theoretical research problems. You can identify a theoretical research problem by reading existing research, theory, and debates on your topic. So this is largely things that are in books and in journal articles, although you can talk to some people about it. Um, Concentrate on a gap in what's currently known, where in the article you read, they say, we still don't know enough about, or we were unable to figure out clues like that. So look for phenomenon, and a phenomenon is a big word for just anything that exists or happens in the world. Look for a phenomenon or context that is a place or a situation or a group of people that has not been closely studied yet. Look for contradiction between two or more perspectives. That is, where two people are disagreeing about how things are or how they should be or what causes them. Look for any kind of a situation or relationship between people that is not understood well. Or just look for a troubling question that we still don't have any real good answers to. So, some examples of theoretical research problems include the effects of long-term vitamin D deficiency on cardiovascular health care are not well understood. So that's definitely involves a theory about how vitamin D works in the body and what to do when you don't have enough of it. And they don't know much about that. Or the relationship between gender, race, and income inequality is closely to be studied in the context of millennial gig economy. That's kind of a big word. What they're saying is um, in the United States, many people just kind of um, advertise themselves and say, "Hi, I'm here. I can do this. I can paint your house. I can dig a ditch," and they kind of wait for people to hire them to do small jobs. That's what a gig is a small one-time job, and they don't understand um, uh, uh, how what sex you are, what race you are, or what how much money you have, how that affects your ability to get enough of these one-time jobs to support yourself. Historians of Scottish nationalism disagree about the role of the British Empire in the development of Scotland's national identity. This has long been a debate in Scotland. Some people in Scotland like and want Scotland to be a part of the British Empire. Other people want it to split off and become a different country. And they really don't, the country as a whole doesn't know for certain where they want to go. So that's something that could be studied. So now that you've identified a problem area within your topic, it's time to read more about the problem. Yes, you probably did a bunch of reading already when you were trying to decide what a problem was. But that first set of reading you did was to find out where a problem exists. Now you've got to go and do some more reading to learn about the problem you've decided on. So let's see how that's done. Now you need to go back and read some more to learn about the context of the problem and what has been done about it in the past. So context is all the background of a problem, the who, what, when, where, why of it. So ask yourself, who does the problem affect? Is it a newly discovered problem or one that's been around a while? What research has already been done? What solutions, if any at all, have already been proposed? Maybe nobody has proposed any solutions yet. And what are current debates about the problem? Or what are people not discussing about this problem as they debate that they really need to? So, as you go out to the literature and really start looking at the problem in detail, take notes about what you learn because you're not writing anything yet, but you're getting information that you're going to use later in your writing. So, take good notes that you can refer back to when you start writing. Now that you've learned about your research problem and your confidence is fairly high that this is the problem you want to investigate, you need to make a conscious decision about whether you actually want to investigate the problem. So let's see how to make that decision. First of all, ask yourself these questions. Do I have access to the participants I need to study? Or do I have access to the research sites I need to visit? And if I don't, do I think I can get it? Will people let me study these people? Will I be allowed to go to these sites? And then ask yourself, do I have the time, the resources, and skills needed to study the issue? So I'll pick my favorite example, finding a cure for cancer. That will probably take at least 5 years, if not longer. You don't have that much time. It will take a sophisticated research laboratory and with lots of equipment, and you don't have the money or the equipment to do that. And to do cancer research, you really need to have a PhD. So you don't have the skills to do that. So that is a great research problem, but not one for you. This is called feasibility. Do I actually have the ability to study this or not? So, how did your little evaluation go? If you answered no to either of those left and right side of the previous slide, then you need to go back and find a different problem to investigate. But if you were able to answer yes to both sides of that screen, then you can continue. Now, here's another set of questions to ask yourself. If I research this problem, will I fill a gap in the literature? That is, will I provide knowledge where we don't have it now? Will I broaden our knowledge by doing the same thing that somebody else did, only in different conditions? Will you extend past research? That is, you found that somebody said, we only had time to study this much or in this depth, and we would like to see somebody study this even more. Does it examine a problem more deeply? Does it give voice to the marginalized? Ooh, what's that? In other words, in every society, there are people who have all the influence, the power, the speed, as we sometimes say in Liberia. And then there's all the other people who are unheard, have no power. Does it give them a chance to provide their input into the knowledge out there? Maybe nobody's asking them what they think or how they feel. Again, I know from my deaf friend in Ganta that deaf people are very marginalized. They actually consider themselves to be invisible because nobody cares about them or what they think. And finally, if I study this, if some other person reads my thesis, will it help them in their job? Is my study going to be helpful to others? Okay, there are a lot more details to consider when answering these questions here, and you can turn to chapter 3 in our text to get those answers. So again, looking back at how you just answered those questions, if you answered no to all of the questions, then you probably haven't got a good research topic. So go back and try again. But if you answered yes to any of those questions, then chances are you've probably got a good research project. So continue. Again, as you're thinking about whether or not this is a good research problem, when you're answering the questions we just talked about, write notes, take lots of notes, because the things you think about and the answers you come up with, you will use when you're writing section 3.3 later on. So the assignment for this part of the unit is another discussion in Moodle. Start out by turning to chapter 3 and review what is a research problem, what problems should I consider, and can and should the problem be researched? Then start a discussion in the My Research Problem forum in Moodle. And in your discussion post, state the research problem, and it doesn't have to be perfect yet because we're still early in the process, and explain why you thought it would be a good one to investigate. That ought to be easy enough to do because you wrote down the answers to all those questions in your notes. And then watch for any replies that come from your instructor later. Your instructor may have additional things for you to think about or may have some suggestions on how to state your problem differently or other feedback that you'll want to consider. So that's it. Now you know what you need to do to identify a research problem for your project. So get started with that and good luck.